Now, it's Teen Suicide Prevention Week, and experts say the number of teenagers attempting to take their lives continues to be a major concern. Children's rights specialist and mental health expert Nicole Breen joins us now to tackle this particular issue. So important, Nicole, and thank you so much for your time this morning. Just perhaps even give us a picture of, the numbers or even stats. When we talk about teen suicide in South Africa, where are the numbers leading to? What are they showing us and telling us?
Well, prior to lockdown, SASOP indicated that 1 in 10 deaths among high school learners were due to suicide, and that 20% of high school learners had attempted to take their own lives. So the statistics are indeed pretty bleak.
Yeah. And do we know why? Do we know what some of the reasons, the most common reasons behind, attempting suicide or even suicide in general?
There are many reasons that a person may attempt to take their own life. So while not all people with mental illnesses are suicidal, most people who attempt to take their own lives are, for example, significantly depressed. Suicide can also be brought on by an event such as in children's lives, significant family upheaval or a phenomenon such as bullying. There have been instances of cyberbullying which has caused young people to take their own lives. So there are a variety of push factors influencing the decision of a young person to do so.
Right. And I just wonder, while we're having this conversation, Nicole, if teen mental health is spoken about enough, if there's enough awareness around it, if it's normalized in communities and schools. What's your take on teen mental health?
Well, mental health in general remains a taboo and something that is significantly neglected in our society as a whole. It's something that's typically minimized. Young people are often accused of seeking attention, for example, and their issues are written off and not talked about. There's also a significant lack of resources for young people, places where they can go and express their feelings, especially during COVID-19 and lockdown. Safe spaces were taken away from young people. And you'll often find that in communities, young people become voiceless essentially and have nowhere to go to express how they might be feeling. And as I say, in lockdown, with things like school closures and social distancing, peer-to-peer support diminished, and also, mental health care services were not able to provide the services they ordinarily would be able to provide.
Yeah, and because we're trying to assist, I suppose, caregivers, parents, guardians, school teachers, community members, around detecting any signs from, teenagers who might be suicidal. Do suicidal teens often give a warning to a loved one? Do they often have signs that we can spot and look out for, and what are they?
Well, I would say that suicide seldom comes out of the blue, and there are definitely precursors to it. A young person might be withdrawn, might be, not wanting to participate in family activities, might be shying away from activities in which they used to take pleasure, might be engaging in behavior that is indicative of, disinterest in things like school, and, I think that what is important is to create open and loving relationships with children, between parents and caregivers and the young people, and to ensure that children regard their family units as a safe space to talk about issues that they may be having.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the ways in which we can play a role, particularly on this Teen Suicide Prevention Week. The numbers currently are there, and if you suspect that a loved one, a teenager, or even yourself or a friend or a colleague might be going through suicidal thoughts and need someone to speak to, please call the helpline. They have hope on 0800 21 22 23, quite important. And I'm assuming that when you make this call, you usually with these organizations assisting, Nicole, they're free of charge, I'm assuming. You can call them 24 hours and you will definitely get the help that you need with the other person on the line.
Yes, but like I say, NGOs and other organizations working in the mental health care sector are horrifically overburdened.
Yeah.
And what we need to take note of is that the services required to help these young people aren't always there. And we must hold government accountable in order to ensure that these services are provided. This is not to say that help is absent or that there are not organizations working very hard, but mental health care is such a small amount of the national health budget that there's simply not enough being done to prevent things like teen suicide. And there definitely is a need for activism and advocacy in this regard to ensure that better services are delivered so as to decrease the amount of teen suicide occurring in this country.
I definitely appreciate you making this point, especially ahead of President Cyril Ramaphosa's response to the SONA debate and, of course, the budget speech expected later on this month. Nicole, thank you so much for raising these issues and speaking to us about teen suicide. And that number again, if you could just bring it up for anyone who might have missed it. Have hope. You can definitely call that number 0800 21 22 23. But again, Gareth, the important point Nicole is mentioning that there's so many organizations, but they're overwhelmed, especially even now during this pandemic. They do need resources.
They do need resources as well. And I think the thing with depression, I must be honest, I've never experienced it personally, but friends and family have, is you feel hopeless.
Right.
That's the overwhelming
Right.
thing. I get the feeling. It's the overwhelming emotion, but you can simply pick up a telephone, that number 0800 21 22 23, especially at the back of COVID,
Right.
with teenagers, matric results just having come out as well. There it is one more time. Thank you, team. So important we emphasize that 0800 21 22 23. It's even toll free. So if you don't have airtime or whatever the story is, you can still get the help that you need. Such an important interview. Thank you, Nicole, for your time.